guys, welcome to Audio Alchemy starring Chris Smith on Love to Be Radio and everywhere else. The show where I literally find the best and brightest in the audio world, where I see how they turn their voices into the pure gold and magic that they are. And today I have a spectacular guest on today. He's a beloved actor of stage and screen who has performed on many big productions such as My Policeman, the Maleficent, and The Night Manager, and a star of screen and stage where he has been doing Shakespeare for so long, including production right now of To Kill a Mockingbird, which he's been touring right now. But of course, any of you out there who is listening to this, and I imagine a big part of you are as well, he is the voice of the beloved Sherlock Holmes on one of the biggest podcasts in the UK right now, Sherlock & Co. Mr. Harry Attwell, lovely to have you, sir.
Hello there. Thank you so much, Chris. Lovely to be here.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. So, I mean, for all the Sherlock & Co. fans, we are going to get to it, but we're going to go later because the show's discussing everything about you in your life and more fun. And I have to say, you are one of the best people to research just because you are one of those people who are so humble in your beginnings, but also the one that a lot of people want to aspire to just because of where you started in acting. Because a lot of people think like, oh, you are a natural theatre kid. It's safe to say that, right? You are a theatre kid at heart.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, growing up, it was amateur theatre that sort of got me started, and yeah, as you say, so has it continued, really.
But one of the first one of the first jobs that got you near acting was the fact that you were the front of house at the Dominion Theatre when We Will Rock You was sort of begun like 2005, 2006 era. So I just want to know, how sick of Queen songs are you by now?
Good question. Very good research as well. Yes. Do you know what? It's really weird with that show. I say this a lot to people. I'm genuinely not sick of them. I really enjoyed that part of my life. I think you're right. It was 2006, I think, when I started there, and then it was so sort of exciting. I think it's a good environment. Anyone that has worked front of house, you know that it's like being at school in a way. You kind of, the longer you're there, you sort of go up in the years and you become a prefect, or like a supervisor, that sort of thing. And it's a good crowd. It's quite a big turnover as well of people, because a lot of people are performers or are in the arts in some regard, and so you get quite a lot of turnover as people come and go. One thing with the Queen songs, I can be in a shop and I can hear one on the tannoy, or if I've seen like tribute acts or anything like that, the main thing is I can remember exactly where I should be in the show at that point. So, for instance, Under Pressure, which is my favourite Queen song. Under Pressure is what we used to call the ice cream song. And so depending what shift you were on that day, you'd either leave to go and have your break, or you get ready kind of for the ice cream bit straight after that. There was others where Gaga opened the show, and again that was like the latecomers. So you'd always, if you were doing the latecomers, you'd be at the back of the auditorium ready to kind of shuffle people down to their seats that had come in late. And so that kind of, if I hear Gaga, then you almost kind of go on guard in a way, because you're just like, trying to be best behavior, remember taking people to their seats. It's quite a big old theatre. Anyone that's been to the Dominion, it's about 1 to 50 the seats, and it goes a long way back. So it was always trying to get the right aisle to take people down. There was
I mean, does that still happen? Does that still happen to you now? Do you hear Under Pressure and think, oh god, it's still in my brain?
Totally. Honestly, it's sort of testament to Queen in a way that, like I say, for me, definitely, I'm not in any way sick of their songs, and it's just they hark me back to that point in my life where it was buzzy, it was fun. I was in my 20s, and it was a great place to work.
No, it's a fantastic place to work, because a lot of people who want to start acting think, oh, okay, if I work near the theatre in any capacity, that will shot me up into actually being on the stage, which, I mean, that's a myth. I think anybody who has dreamed of that, I think, okay, if I started that, but you actually doing that, and then being like, was there any hope of like the director just sort of noticing you?
I have to say, with regards to Rock You, no, because I don't do musicals. I love musicals so much, and one day I hope to maybe be in one where the singing perhaps could be, not too many songs for me, because I don't have that background, and I with amateur stuff I did do musicals, but as you start to progress in the career, you realise there are some obviously much better singers out there. So for me, it was more about. I guess that buzz, like I say, being in that lifestyle. I think working with people who are of a similar type with regards to, like I say, actors, performers, people within the business. That there used to be set designers that worked there, directors, writers, and so you kind of have this lovely crossover of people who have the same mentality as you and have that same drive. I think there were people that worked there definitely who were musical theatre actors, performers, and they were, they certainly let it be known that they would be very interested. There was lots of singing up and down the corridors, much to the chagrin of the patrons, I think, the people coming in. But it was, for me, never like that. What was nice is in the pub, I think it's still there. There used to be a pub right at the back of the Dominion. After the shift, sometimes you'd cross over with some of the actors, and it was nice. Similarly, in the capacity I am when I am an actor and I end up bumping into front of houses, I'll always get my front of house head on. And yesterday, in fact, I went to the theatre and I found a mobile phone as I was leaving on the floor. And I went straight into front of house mode. I memorized the seat, went and told a front of house member. So it never leaves you. It's always there.
I love that, but it also means, because I always think that people who want to work in stage should work front of house or an artist. It's just because you've got to give appreciation to the staff there, especially on the fact that whilst actors sing a lot. I mean, how many times did you actually have to hear "We Will Rock You"? Because it's on once or twice a day for a long time.
Yeah, so you think 8 shows a week they did, and to their credit, they were all the casts as they changed. They were powerhouses and really amazing actors. There's an incredible one of my favourite performers is called Maz Murray, who's a real West End legend, and she was in it when I first started and was there for a number of years, and has gone on to do all sorts, obviously since. So it was a pleasure because you got to hear these great songs sung fantastically. I would say, if you were in the auditorium, you pinged around. Sometimes you were on the bars. I used to do the access role, which was patrons who had mobility needs, all that sort of thing. So they kept you kind of busy, depending on which section you worked in. But it was always obviously in the background. So I would say I've heard or seen it, I don't know, hundreds of times. Yeah, it would be hundreds. And like I say, the fact that I can still, highly enjoy Under Pressure and all the others means that definitely.
I commend you on that. Because for someone who has worked in retail, just hearing the same songs constantly over time can drive us insane. So the fact that you have that mentality of still loving Queen, I commend you.
Yeah. It might not be the same for every show that was on at the Dominion, because when We Will Rock You finished, there was a number of shows that followed. Not all of them are held in such high regard. Some were frankly bizarre, but it was nice in a way. Once Rock You did finish, there's something about a building. What I love about theatre and I love about touring, for instance, you're going into a place where the previous week there was a play on, the following week there's a musical on. I love that kind of the thing about the building holding a different energy and a different group of people and all that sort of thing. So it was nice to see the Dominion used in different ways. And I think at the moment they're having a really good run with The Devil Wears Prada, which I've not seen yet. But I have been back to the Dom. I've seen a few bits over the years, and it's nice to always go back and see some old friends that still work there.
Do you let them know? They're like, oh, yeah, I used to work here. I know all the secrets of where you lot work now.
Exactly. You're looking out for all the secret stashes and things.
So you do that front of house, which is a commendable job, but then to go from there into acting, going to drama school, which is a feat unto itself, is amazing, and then landing the first role which you had, which was in Hamlet, I believe, was one of the early productions you did, basically doing Shakespeare. Was there sort of how nervous was the role? Okay, I've done this now. I've worked back in house so many times, but now I'm actually on the stage in any capacity, in any role. Was there any sort of fear of okay, I'm now here. This is what I worked for. This is now the goal.
Yeah, the time frame sort of crossed over a little bit. Actually, I trained first, and then I after I think it was about 2 years after I graduated. Then I got the front of house job.
Yes,
and in that build up to working at the Dominion, I did do a few tours. If you know what TIE is, theatre in education, so sort of small scale. That was predominantly Shakespeare plays that we used to take around schools and sort of small theatres. I did some fringe work around London. A few bits and bobs, short films and things. When I think it was 2008. My first West End job was just before Hamlet, same season though. So just before Hamlet, I was in a production of Twelfth Night, which was Michael Grandage directed, and he directed 4 plays in a row. Twelfth Night, I think, was the second. Hamlet was the fourth. And so Twelfth Night, I was what's called an offstage understudy. So you have your parts. They just slightly they sometimes just need extra bodies. Same as in the musical system, there's swings. So swings aren't on every show, but they're backstage ready, just in case there's an injury or that sort of thing. So Twelfth Night was a real game changer for me because I had done not too bad with the Shakespeare, like I say, sort of small scale stuff. But then for for me, the West End, I've said this before, I think, but I do always like to make sure that I make it clear that the West End can't be seen, or I don't believe it should be seen, of course, as the pinnacle for everybody, because we all have different paths that are taken and really different journeys that we're all going on. For me, growing up, though, I used to come to London a lot with sometimes on my own. I'd come up for a day, see a matinee, go home as I got a little bit older. But with my parents, I was introduced to theatre a lot, and it really was a real pinch me moment. I remember I was on a lunch break from a temping job, and I got the phone call from my agent saying I got the part in Twelfth Night, and it was that thing of you sort of I couldn't believe it. I felt so fortunate, and I didn't realize what that one job would do because it does open up doors with regards to the people that come along, the exposure that you've got. Just having, like I said, the director Michael Grandage, who I've been really fortunate to work with a few times. He was a former actor, and so he's got a lovely way with actors in that he even the smallest parts, he gives you that feeling that you're important. And I've done you mentioned My Policeman earlier. My Policeman was one of Michael's films that I was involved in. In My Policeman, I've got a tiny role, but because we've got about 10, 12-year history, even on the day that I was shooting, he made a point of making sure you feel like you know what you're up to. Sometimes when you do films and you've got a smaller part, you can, not always, but you can feel a little bit let's get through this and then move on from the day players. And Michael, he's got a lovely way of encouraging and making sure you feel, like I say, part of it. Hamlet was I was in Hamlet, so I'd done 12th Night off stage, had been on a couple of times because of illness, but then Hamlet, Michael auditioned me, and with that, that was a really special show to be a part of. Fantastic cast. People that have gone on to doing incredible things since. So you've got this lovely history with a lot of people, which is nice.
No, but I love that just because, like, I mean, I do so agree with you that the West End, it's not the top, it's not the pinnacle. Like, okay, once you're on there, you're done. But like, I think it's always a fun thing that that especially a lot of big movie stars think of as like that they think, oh, I'm not a real actor unless I perform Shakespeare on the West End, which you can just say, done that about a dozen times. It's not that.
Yeah.
I mean, just off the hand, do you actually have a particular favorite Shakespeare?
I think when I love the comedy Much Ado About Nothing, which I did in an amateur version when I was about 20, and I love the Kenneth Branagh Emma Thompson film version. For
Yeah.
me is marvelous, and I go back to watching that a lot. It's just, it's got I think it's one of those plays that really has a beautiful. It's dark and tragic, and there's the wedding scene with poor Hero, and she's kind of thrown under the bus by Claudia with the suspicions, but there's a lot of lovely humour, a lot of genuine elements within the play throughout, and that's the one that I kind of always think, I'd like to do. I did a version TIE in about 2007, so just before things sort of kicked off properly. I think it's one of those credits I think sort of helped with casting directors from the just before I got the West End, seeing what people had done, and they'd obviously seen I had done a lot of Shakespeare, and I think that really helped. And I'll go with Much Ado About Nothing, I think.
No, I love that. It's a fantastic play. I mean, just because, I mean, you have done quite a few. I mean, Hamlet, 12 Nights, including, I think you've done King Lear as well, like going into sort of roles like that. But it's like, it's so strange when it's just like doing a lot of Shakespeare like that. People think, oh, like, was there a mind thinking, oh, okay, so am I just going to be a Shakespearean actor? Or was there the ambition of, okay, stage is good, now let's move on to the screen? Yeah.
For me, theatre is my main love, and I think that's probably due to how it's fallen for me. Is I've just ended up doing more theatre, and I think therefore my feeling more comfortable on the stage, whether that was because I did a lot amateur, as I say, in an amateur capacity growing up, and then with the Shakespeare, I did struggle with Shakespeare at school. I think I had a good English teacher. I went to state schools, very normal schools, and there was no drama departments, anything like that in the schools I went to. And so I got my fix of theatre in the evenings when I used to go to the amateur groups. But in the daytime, we did have, or, you know, when I was at school, I mean, we did have a few good English teachers who allowed you to pick apart the play. And I think that's one of the advantages of when you actually are in a company where you do get the rehearsal process, you do get those opportunities with certain scenes, well, every scene, of course, but the bits you're in, going through the script, picking out what the lines mean, translating it basically into modern, you know, normal colloquial English. It just frees up the brain for you to engage with those words, to engage with the emotions. And I think that can be the issue with Shakespeare sometimes for a lot of people. They see it as an automatic barrier. And quoting, going back to Michael Grandage, he always says for the first 5 minutes or so of any show, the audience is taking everything in. And so that's the set, that's the music, that's the other people, that's the auditorium, that's everything they've got in front of them. So it takes an audience a little while to really, to zone in. And I think in order for people to pick up on things with Shakespeare, it's needing that clarity, it's needing those moments of being clear. And I think for me, what I really loved is I just sort of accidentally sort of stumbled into doing a lot of Shakespeare really in my 20s, which led on to doing, like you say, a few others on Richard II I did and Henry V, and some others since then. And it's just one of those things where you, I think I just sat there one day after a few years of realizing I've done quite a lot on the bounce and going, you know, I didn't realize this would happen, didn't mean for this to happen, but really grateful it did. With the film and telly elements, it's still something I strive to sort of get more of. I think because of understanding, I think it's wanting to branch out. And as I said earlier, the exposure that you're very lucky to get in some roles gives you that opportunity, knowing that people will have come to have seen the show, and therefore you can ping them off an email or a letter, you know, a few more years ago, just to see
it's
if
a nice
they'd be
credit to have on your CV. Just be like, oh yes, I've done all these Shakespeare plays. I mean, you have also done other productions as well. I mean, Frankenstein was a big one as well, which I absolutely loved. Yeah, I love going to that play.
Great.
Just so I know the top here, because it's always different. So, what were the plays you had to learn at school for Shakespeare? Because there's always one or two.
Yeah, we did. Let me have a think. Gosh, I did Romeo and Juliet when I was about 13, 14.
Yeah,
And
well, everyone does that one.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet's a classic, which I've never done professionally. So at some point, I would like to have a crack at that. I think we did Macbeth, we did Hamlet, and I think Much Ado. Much Ado was in there as well, actually, which I studied. So again, that was another in.
Oh, you did the hard hitters. I mean, I know I did Much Ado About Nothing, but I think I did As You Like It. I think my teachers were nice to me.
Yeah, exactly. Which is one what's interesting with Shakespeare as well. There's only a certain amount, of course, but there's some that I've never touched on, never seen. As You Like It, I've never seen. King John. I feel like controversially maybe, but because of the popularity of certain plays, because of knowing that they'll get bums on seats, there are a lot of Shakespeare's I feel that are done regularly.
Oh yeah, there's always the ones where it's like people will not miss Macbeth or Hamlet. They'll go see it. Yeah. Whereas
exactly.
Whereas like Taming of the Shrew, they might go, don't know, you know.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like it would be nice to kind of bring to the fore some of those plays which aren't done as often, just so we get in Stratford. Of course, they will at the Globe. They'll do them, but on a slightly broader level across other theatres and things like that. It would be nice maybe to start to see some of those lesser known ones, just so then we're all a little bit more aware of them. I think.
Oh yeah, of course. So I mean, it's not just Shakespeare that you've done. You have done other work. Specifically, right now, you have sort of been touring the country right now and returning to a role that you had previously done, which was Mr. Cunningham in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you still on tour with them?
Yeah, so I'm Mr. Cunningham and I'm Boo Radley as well. So I've got a double in that. And as you said earlier, I did it in the West End from 2022 into 23, and then there's a bit of a pause, and then we started again last summer in August in Leeds, and then we've had a little break for Christmas, which has been much appreciated, and then we start again. I go up to Manchester tomorrow, and we start on Tuesday in Manchester. Yeah, so it'd be nice to be up there.
I can't believe to see that. Is it when you do stuff like that, where it's like first on the West End and then to Kill a Mockingbird? Does it feel like it's one long job with intermittent breaks in it, or was there a feeling like when the West End was done with To Kill a Mockingbird, I was like, okay, I am done with that role now. And then it's like touring next, like, oh damn, I have to do it again. You know.
It was a good thing. Like we finished, like I say, 2023, and there was bubbles of would it come back, will it tour, all that sort of thing. It's a big old production with regards to the number of people, the number of characters needed. The set is quite intricate in some certain bits, and we between us, sort of the cast, you joked about it, and you was like, if it came back, would you do it? Would you do it? 2 years down the line, it was I think it was January last year, January February. Somebody or they popped it up on Instagram that it was the tour was happening, and then we all started WhatsApping each other and just saying, oh, what's happening, what's going on. Then they approached me in February March time to say, would I be interested in returning to the show? And I sort of jumped at it. I have to say, I doubling up on those roles. I think Boo Radley is. If you know the book, it's he's so integral to the story of the children and their progress throughout the book. I would say in a more it's certainly more present in the book, his role, whereas in the play he's touched upon. But what Aaron Sorkin has done so fantastically with the adaptation is really get to unfortunately the devastating consequences of the trial, of the I don't know, the feelings in that town towards people, within the global majority who we're talking 60s America. We can talk about present America. Let's try not to get the conversation too dark. But we're living in the times which are mirroring these things. And so I beg your pardon, it was written in the 60s, set in the 30s. And
it's a sad fact that a play written in the 60s in America can still hold up in today's America, which is like, oh, that's not that good, but it's still a fantastic play.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to know that the story would still resonate. And we said this in 2022 when we first started. Aaron Sorkin, at the kind of initial read through, when he wrote it for the Broadway production originally, which was 2019, I think. And so America changed so much between 2019 and 2022 with the Black Lives Matter movement, all the things that were going on over there. And so to come to it again in 2025, 26, again, we've got so much happening, which it resonates in a very different capacity and resonates in the UK with politics and all that sort of thing. So to know that I was coming back to it, I found it quite thrilling, because you do know that there's more to give. There's newer audiences. It's lovely to go up and down the country and see people's reactions. And what is interesting about the reactions we get, they're lovely, genuine reactions at the end of the show. We've had, you go from Glasgow. I'm trying to think. Well, Eastbourne, we were right at the end just before Christmas, which is a small sort of seaside town on the south coast. And so, when the north of the country to the south, you're getting this reaction, you're getting this sort of impact, I think, on the audiences, and that's what the crux of the play, really is.
Which is fantastic. Just out of curiosity in my mind, just because you did this one in 2022, which was before you got your infamous role as Sherlock. Now that you're touring, right? Have you had fans sort of recognize, like, oh, Sherlock's in To Kill a Mockingbird? That's so weird.
Yeah, I have actually. Which has been weird, because my brain is in sort of To Kill a Mockingbird mode, and I've been to stage door. And there's in Edinburgh, there was a mother and her daughters, and they asked to sign the program, and she said, "Oh, my daughter is a big Sherlock fan," and then your brain switches again, because you go, "Oh, it's that capacity. Oh, how lovely!" And it's so nice to know that there's people everywhere. And obviously within the UK, but what's fascinating with the reaction about Sherlock is I get lovely messages on Instagram sometimes from India and Brazil, all across the world, and that's the impact, as you well know with your show as well. The impact and the importance of podcasts is that ability to reach out to people. And
I think mine's a little more on a small scale compared to yours.
Well, lovely as well, though, lovely as it is, which I like. But yeah, it is nice to meet people face to face, and also that a friend of mine is a teacher in Nottingham, and when we were touring and I went to Nottingham, I went into his college and just kind of had a chat with some acting students just about similar sort of thing about the business. And I was talking and I mentioned Sherlock and Co. And the person who happened to be sat next to me, that they gasped, and then I turned and they didn't realise that I was involved in Sherlock, and they were listeners, and so it's really nice when you do meet people.
Oh, hey, it's Sherlock speaking.
Yeah, exactly. I think when they see me, I think the fans have a very different image of perhaps their Sherlock, and then they meet me and they're like, "Oh, okay, he's not quite what I imagined," but I just close your eyes and then listen.
We'll get to that a bit later, just because I want to talk more in details about that. But So, I mean, one quick thing before we move on. I mean, so To Kill a Mockingbird, returning to that, did you have to redo all? Did you have to? Were the lines that you had already stuck in there, or was it a bit like, okay, I have to revise this, I have to really check what it is?
Yes and no. I they definitely came back. I certainly studied the script. It was a slightly tweaked version from the previous thing, only minor little details that were kind of a more updated version, if you will. And I, yeah, definitely had a look. I understudy as well, so I've got a couple of parts that I understudy, which I did understudy back in London. They were the bits that really needed to come back because they were in my head 2 years ago. But what's interesting when you do leave these jobs, you not that you drop it straight away, but you after a month, after 2 months, it's still in you, but you know that the brain is sort of making space for other bits and pieces. And yeah, it took a little while just to make sure I was on top of it. There's a couple of songs, excuse me, a couple of songs in the play, and that was the weirdest bit because the first time we heard them again in the mounting of it in the summer, I knew the tune, but I couldn't remember the words at all. It was so odd because I was humming as we were sort of beginning to reform the scene again, and I was humming this song, and I was like, "How on earth do I know this song?" Back in the back of my memory, I knew it was part of the play, and then somebody gave you the lines again or the song words, and then it came back, and it's door, and the brain just suddenly like there was a door, just it opened, and it was like, there you go, you can have those words back. So it took a little bit of tweaking, yeah.
Now that's amazing. Like, do you have yourself like a self-made process of how you go for your lines? Have you got like a motion of like, okay, I'll do this amount of the night or do this amount of the day, like, or is it different with every player? Is it like, okay, depending on the role, of like, okay, this is how much I'll do, this is how much I'll revise.
Yeah, I guess it does vary. It's for me, if I've if I've got a few weeks before, sometimes you can get cast. I've been cast in plays before the previous Tuesday, and you're starting on the Monday. So sometimes it's really quick. Very rare for that to happen with me, but it has been a few times over the years that I've gone for the audition last minute because they haven't cast it or they need to recast something like that. In those instances, you haven't really got much time to do anything other than go to the rehearsals, go home, and then study, in the evenings as well. If you've got a little bit more time, a few months, ideally for me, I like if you can book yourself ahead far enough.
Yeah.
There's time to kind of read the play and just the play a bit. But what I like to do is I'll try to stand in my wife and in our bedroom. We've got quite a high chest of drawers, and I open the script, and I like to stand just to kind of, I don't know whether it's freeing up my body or whatever, going through 2, 3 lines at a time. If it's a big speech, start at the beginning, obviously move forward, go back, and so you sort of edging your way forward until you get to the end, and then trying to go back, obviously, and go the whole way through. It's having patience as well, because what's amazing is the strength in having a sleep and overnight. So you've got to trust in yourself. If you feel like you've absolutely battered a scene, sometimes is it there? I'll go to bed, wake up in the morning, and as I'm laying there, kind of before I get up, as I'm hitting the snooze button, I'll run those lines again, and it's amazing how many times you realize it has gone in. Just sort of that, maybe the brain relaxing a little bit overnight as you're sleeping, and then what you worked on so hard the day before tends to ingest a little bit. But there's been a few close calls, so especially as I'm getting older, it varies a little bit. The
I
brain
mean,
the brain's not what it was.
you're a testament to your trade in the sense of like you can do the turnaround that quickly in rehearsals. I absolutely applaud that, because I mean, there's a lot of times where it's just like, I did theatre work in the past where it's just like, oh yeah, I need to redo this. Could you just redo this whole bit? I'm just like, no, like I only have like a night. What are you talking about? Like, so I commend you on that. So whilst we know that theatre is your heart and soul in what you are doing right now, you have also started some massive productions in TV and cinema. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because the scale of like working in theatre on stage has a different mindset to working in film, where there's long hours, you're not even there for most of the time, you're not called that much time. What was the production or the film or show that you've done where you sort of recognize, oh, this is entirely different. I am in a different world now to what I am used to.
I guess there are several times. Yeah, there are. The more you do it, of course, the more you get used to it. One of my first TV jobs was a thing called Da Vinci's Demons, which was on Star, I think, and it was this is about 2012, 2013.
I think I
And
remember.
gosh, Yeah, it was. I have to say, it was a fantastic actor. I can't remember who played the lead. I didn't have a scene with him. I had a scene with Hugh Bonneville, and there was in the first episode with Hugh Bonneville, and Hugh Bonneville played this kind of gross sort of lord type chap, and I just had to kill him. That was basically my role in that. And
Okay.
uh, it was we had a setup in a church. It was filmed in Wales, I think, going back. And this church, there was all these background artist extras that were there. There was a green screen at the church door because obviously it filmed in the UK, but it was set in Italy. And so there was this huge green screen as people, this kind of flurry of people with Hugh Bonneville at the front walked in. And I had to stand up out of the pew and then just get a knife out and stab him in the neck, basically. And he had this huge sort of blood capsule thing coming out of his neck. And it was that I remember getting back to my trailer at the end of the day and being kind of high in a way on the excitement of
Yeah.
the day, the rush of it. It was David S. Goyer was the showrunner. I think he was the writer, and he's done lots, I think, within the Batman world and the DC world. I think, if I'm right in thinking this, you'll get people correcting me. Feel free to anyway to email and correct. But it was just a much bigger event than I'd ever been a part of, and it was things like the costumes. Everyone, you were looking around. There was as I ran away from killing Bonneville in the scene, I was covered in sort of the fake blood. There was these three chaps. I think they were meant to be bishops or clergy or something, in these very white, clean robes behind me. And what I was terrified about doing was clattering into them, getting fake blood all down their shirts or anything like that. So it was keeping myself in check a little bit, because one thing I've always found, and I'm getting a little bit better with this, in those early days, no one ever tells you in drama training or anything who to ask questions to, because I remember the makeup person touching me up just before a scene, and I needed to ask something to the director, or you go to the first AD or the second AD, depending who's dealing with you in that scene. And David S. Goyer was kind of behind this big curtain, and the monitors were all over there, and you just couldn't leave the scene and go and ask them. And I found that one the kind of trickiest bits, was like, I've got questions about X, Y, Z, but who on earth do you grab? And I think that's one thing I've got a lot more confident about, is work out who your chain of command is, because
Mm.
everyone's got their agenda on a film set, and the sound people, makeup, wardrobe, whatever department they're in, they're all working so hard, but they are focused on their bit of it. So that was one thing I kind of tried to make sure I started to understand: who do you grab,
Mm.
when there's
No,
trouble or when there's questions.
no, that's true. I mean, so you've done a few films and TV shows now. Do you have that confidence of being like, no matter what role you are, to just be there and be like, okay, where am I? What am I doing? Who's this? Can I ask you, just so I can be in this and know what to do, so I don't have to bother you?
Yeah, totally. And it is confidence, and sometimes that takes shape of putting on a little bit of a mask, or that scene, you're all collaborating on that scene together. And I think it's not about being cocky or anything like that. It's more like they're there to do their job, you're there to do your part of it. And for instance, a few years ago, I did a TV show called Curfew, where I had a small scene at the beginning of the series where just playing a creepy guy attacking somebody down an alleyway, basically. The DOP, incredible chap. He had this huge strap-on Steadicam, massive big contraption, like what Sigourney Weaver ends up with at the end of Alien 2. If you
Yeah.
can picture that, it was
Ow.
over the shoulder. Yeah, huge big thing. And he was exhausted, I think, because it was a long old shoot. This was a night shoot as well. It's about 2 in the morning, and he was exhausted. They were all exhausted, and you want to, like I say, nail your bit of this process to help them. And I remember talking to him about, he was coming over my shoulder, the camera behind my shoulder, and I wanted to just make sure things like that. I grabbed him and sort of, as there was a quiet moment, and just said, do you want this? Do you want that? Is this right? And it's sort of taking that little step forward and going, I think I know what I'm trying to achieve with this. Grab the person who's sort of top of the pile with regards to obviously him getting that shot framed and things, and making sure that you cut out too much faff or too much panic, and you just think, right, I think I'm going to ask him, grab the top person, and then go from there. So sometimes it takes a little bit of courage, just because it can be a busy environment where there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of people trying to make sure things are getting sorted, especially on a time, if there's time constraints, night shoots, all that sort of thing. So it's just being confident within yourself and going, right, I'll grab you. And if they are completely the wrong person, usually they'll say, no, go to so and so.
Well, one that I've been told, and I think it's kind of true, that basically, running a film production is sort of the same as running the military, in the sense that everyone has a job, everyone has to do it in motion. If you don't do it in motion, it all goes out of sync. So, and not that I'll let you name names on people, but has there ever been a particular film production or a TV production where like you've had a bad day or like things have gone wrong where you're just like, can you just do it so I can go home?
Yes, let's have a think. I think, yeah, there's a lot of patience that is needed. I've been lucky, I would say, with regards to the environments that I've been in. There's never been too bad. Every now and then there'll be a snappy word because, as we say, the tensions are high. Um, in a positive version of that, actually, I did a film, Breathe, which was directed by Andy Serkis and Andrew Garfield and Claire Foy and myself were in this scene. And so you're surrounded by these fantastic actors, directed by the incredible Andy Serkis, who's an amazing performer, let alone a great director. And that had a lovely feel to that shoot, and the energy on the set was very nice. There was a moment just before we were about to shoot. Claire Foy, Andrew Garfield, and myself were stood under this kind of an umbrella, but it was propped up on stilt things, and it just collapsed on us for whatever reason. It just collapsed, and no one kicked off. I certainly wouldn't have, but the big stars that were there were Andrew and Claire, and they were both so chilled. People panicked and rushed and all that sort of thing, and I just remember them keeping that. They helped, I think, for that day, for the environment to stay positive. And if you've got stars of their caliber, if you've got people across the board, as I say, Andy Serkis, all of the production were amazing on that. It seems to be a happy shoot. So when something like that, which could have perhaps caused people to kick off, they just everyone kept their cool. We found the funny side of it and just moved on. I think that's the key with those sorts of things.
No, I mean that I completely agree with that. Like, yeah, you can't find the laughter and just be like, you know what, this job is ridiculous, and that if that's the thing that I'm complaining about, I don't deserve this job, which I love that. So, like as you have said, you have worked with fantastic actors at the past of stage and screen, but some of them have a bit more bigger names. Andrew Garfield, Hugh Bonneville. I can't believe you killed the Lord of Downton Abbey, which is hilarious. I mean, did you know that he was in there? Because it was 2012. He sort of started that. So was it a little bit like strange to be like, oh, I'm killing Hugh Bonneville? Yeah.
Well, it was before. It was just before Downton had begun. So you obviously knew. Yeah, you knew who he was through many other things. And I can't remember when I found out, because sometimes you do know who's in these things. Other times they keep it a little bit more under wraps. I think it was probably as we were heading to, once you've got the role, sometimes you'll go in for costume fittings a few weeks before you're actually shooting. So I think it was around about then I found out. And then it's always like, oh, it's a lovely thing when you do work with certain people, and you're 5 years later, 10 years later, you're watching a film, and I've done it before. You're just admiring somebody that you're watching and thinking they're great, and you're like, oh, actually, I've worked with them, and it's a nice reminder sometimes.
Well, I mean, just to name also, I mean, Jude Law's a good one. I mean, Tom Hiddleston for The Night Manager, and of course the biggest one, Paul Waggett. Yeah,
absolutely. Paul.
Nah, but like, has there ever been anybody you worked with that completely starstruck you, where you were like, oh my god, I'm in a scene with you?
Yes, I try to be very cool. I do, because basically we all do the same job, and I think that's a really good leveler. And if I meet people at parties in a more relaxed setting, shall we say, if I see an actor at a party, or if when I've done plays, and sometimes at the press night, say you'll meet people who are fantastic, and people that you've admired. So there is a good leveler with all actors, I think, of any scale or whatever. We basically do the same job. It's just the budgets are bigger, and the exposure is bigger, and that's a nice leveler because it keeps one on the ground a little bit. I did a film which, well, I'm trying to think. I think things like people go on to other things as well. I did a film called Testament of Youth, which was a really lovely film based on author Vera Britton's memoirs of World War One and the subsequent years of losing her true story of losing, I think, her fiance and her brother in World War One. And it was Alicia Vikander was playing Vera Britton, and this was before she won the Oscar. This was before Tomb Raider and things. But you knew that she was already somebody, but she was going to proceed and keep growing and being amazing as she is. And that was kind of a preemptive one where I remember it was just the two of us. I was sat on a wall, and she came and joined me just to have our lunch, because you got your catering and it was a nice day, so we sat outside as opposed to in trailers or anything. and she just came and joined me, and we just sat there having a lunch together. And it was, it's just a quick little blast of somebody, which is really nice. You get those little moments, and then, as I say, you'll go on to other. They go on and succeed more, and it's nice to when you see how these people sort of obviously progress. I think I'm trying to think like the most starstruck. Sometimes it's not necessarily when you've been working with them, but Michael Grandage's first film was a film called Genius, and which sort of went under the radar a little bit. It was Jude Law, Colin Firth, Nicole Kidman, Guy Pearce, Laura Linney, an amazing cast. And I was picked up from my trailer when I was doing that film, and somebody knocked on the door, and then you walk from the trailers to the set. We were in a studio, and there was four of us walking along, myself and the person who came to get me, and somebody else on the production, and another actor next to me, and we were talking about the weather, and we were just kind of bumbling along, and it was Nicole Kidman, and that was one of those moments of, I didn't realize it was her to begin with, because she had her back to me, as just in front of me with brown wig on. She had brown hair in the film, and then I was like, oh, it's Nicole Kidman. I'm just walking to set with Nicole Kidman, and it was just one of those things. And it was a while ago now, but she was lovely. She was brilliant on set, and she very generous and very sweet, and all those sorts of things that she always comes across, I think. But that was one of those odd, surreal moments, when you get back to your trailer, you're just like, just spent a little bit of time with somebody who's so well known. So yeah, every now and then there's those little weird bits.
I've just talked to a movie star. Honestly, give yourself credit. You are a movie star. You have enjoyed a long success in that. Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
you can play the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon with me. A little bit. I like things like that.
No, but you're big in all these things. The fact that you have appeared in not just your screen and stage and all the TV. That's a commendable career just to do that, because they're like, I can't remember the phrase, but like, there's no small bits, only small actors. Where if people think, oh, they deserve great success, like having just a stable career in anything in like that is a fantastic achievement in of itself. But like going back to sort of the acting with the stage and stuff, with big casts like that, Shakespeare stuff, but also with like To Kill a Mockingbird, the cast stays together. Like you sort of hang out or you sort of know the acting world quite a lot now. Has there been anyone for like a really early production that you've managed to stay in touch with? Like someone in your 20s, you're like, oh wow, I'm amazed that I met you from there, and I'm still friends with you today.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lovely question. I have what we call them keepers. It's kind of like, I don't know whether everyone does that, but when you're in plays, especially because I end up doing epic, massive companies, you just say 2 or 3 keepers maybe per show, and that will sometimes be somebody in the sound department, or that will be another cast member. So I'm friends still with somebody called Lucy Randall, who I did a play with. First, I think I've worked with her a few times. That was back in 2005. I met Lucy, so 21 years. A really great actor, dear friend of mine called Ed Harrison, who I did Henry the Fourth with, and Henry the Fifth with, beg your pardon. That was 2013. So now we're getting on, 13 years as mates. And when you've got friends within the business who you can, I try to be sensitive with regards to negative chatter about the job, because it is a hard gig, it's a hard job, it's a hard profession for many reasons. And to have friends that are more than just former colleagues, they're sort of true friends who are going through the same struggles as you. It's good to have those people that you can vent to and rant to, who completely understand it, who completely get it. My wife is amazing. My wife's a former stage manager, so she understands the etiquette and the madness of the business as well. So she's the perfect person to be able to talk to. And but when it comes to friends and people, one of you will be in a gig, and one of you will. This is with regards to mates. It's changeable. Sometimes one will be really, really busy for a year, and you're having a quiet year, and you're sort of. I do like to say, and I sort of truly believe this within myself, I never get jealous of friends, because for me, jealousy is, you can be frustrated for sure. And I do get frustrated. I do get, you can do the biggest job of your, with Hamlet. We did that in the West End, then we went to Broadway for 3 months, and I didn't work for 10 months after Broadway. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was sort of like, but there's that bit in you which I've just come back from Broadway. Why am I not suddenly in the West End? it's just the business. The business is so up and down, completely nonsensical when it comes to trying to understand why you don't have any. Um, it's not like a conveyor belt, one thing leads to the other. And I think that's a really good thing in my brain with regards to the not being jealous of mates. It's going, that's their gig, and that's their, like I said earlier, journeys, or whatever metaphor we want to use. For me, I kind of, if I do have those quiet days, if I do have those periods of not working, it's just remembering your, it will come, and it's harder sometimes than others, but it's just believing in that sort of, the pieces fall into place for whatever reason. But
I
it can
mean,
be.
have you given that sort of advice to someone up and coming? Have you met some little actors, like starting actors, who have just been like, "What do I do to keep going?" Like, what's the advice you would give them?
Yeah, definitely. Every now and then, yeah, you play as the play I'm in at the moment. We've got actors who are sort of 22, 23, and obviously I'm sort of, middle-aged now, 44, and then others who have been going 20,
Nice,
30
nice.
years.
You got peak health. I'm like you. You barely look 30.
Bless you, bless you. I'm going to quote you on that, so I'll put that on my CV. Thank you so much. It's just the lighting, I think, in here. But with regards to the longevity of the job, yes, I'll try, and if it's suitable, you never want to, you know, predict what someone else is going through. But I think if I do talk to drama school students or people that are just starting out, it really is, for me, it's patience, and it's trying to be as kind as you can with regards to the reasons. The thing is, we're not told often why you haven't got something, or you'll send off, 5 tapes in a week, and you get nothing back. You don't even get a no sometimes. You just send these off. And what I've got better at is closing my brain to that role once it's gone. Once I've auditioned, a lot of it these days is self-tape, so it can all feel very contained. And so you'll do the tape, you'll send them off, and you won't hear a thing. And there are people in our business, and I agree with it, trying to change that system. There's a few years ago there was a thing called the yes. I think it was just something called the yes no policy or something like that. All we need is just a yes or a no, basically, which you would get if you interviewed at a supermarket, or if you interviewed for most other jobs. You generally get an email back saying thanks but no thanks. For whatever reason in our business, you don't. Not always. It does happen sometimes, but I do feel that's the thing lacking, which is just a little bit of courtesy, really. Because sometimes for these self tapes, you're putting in hours and hours of work, panicking, trying to do it, filming it yourself these days, sending it off yourself, and it leads to nothing. And so I feel you've got to have that resilience within yourself to try not to second guess. For me, I'm bald, or I'm ginger, when I've got my beard, or I'm too tall because I'm quite tall, or whatever it may be. It's just going to yourself. They wanted that. They wanted it to take a different journey. And it's trying, however hard that may be, it's just trying to say to yourself, it's not me because I'm rubbish. It's not me because I can't do it. It was me, perhaps, because I just don't fit their vision for this collective, especially if they've got 10 actors and they've already got a tall, bald ginger guy who they cast a month ago. They don't want 2 of us, and you just happen to come second in the list. So it's just being as kind and as patient as you can, and having good interim jobs as well. I think going back to the Dominion, or an array of, gosh, I've done a lot of jobs, but it's trying to find something perhaps that excites you, or not a complete second career necessarily, which I know I've got some friends that do, but if you can just get a good interim job, a good office job, a good front of house gig, which just makes those gaps easier to manage, really, because it can be long.
No, but yeah, I 100% agree with a lot of that, because I mean sometimes it's just because of like, yeah, I'm still doing this, but I also need money, so like, can I have like this job like
Exactly.
6 months?
Yeah,
But
that's it. Bills have to be paid.
yeah, but I also completely agree on the yes no policy of just like, yeah, I mean, you are in a business based on rejection. A lot of it is just like, oh yeah, you can be just ignored a lot of times. I do appreciate it, especially in my line with radio and things. I'm just like, I'd rather just be told no than be ignored. I'd rather just have like just someone tell me no, like like you can't be on the show, like you can't do that sort of thing, which I love. But in terms of like other roles that you were talking about, like oh, too tall, too large, that sort of thing. Is there any particular role in the future where, despite what you like, despite the whole thing, you're just like, okay, if they ever do that, I better be first. That's the one I want to do.
Yes, I think there are. I would love to be, for instance, in the play The Mousetrap. I'm a huge Agatha Christie buff, and I love my Agatha Christie. And the Mousetrap I've seen a number of times, so I certainly know who did it, and I won't reveal. But there's only certain roles that I can be in that because um, my age and my look. Again, go back to my look. Kind of the chaps in it are quite young, and they're also dashing with swept over hair.
They also use a lot of heavy makeup, so you're gonna be fine.
This is true, maybe. There is an older guy in it, Major Metcalf, who, in the Australian version, in the recent tour over there, which I just had a look at the cast, they have a younger guy playing him. And so I'm trying to channel that maybe over here in London, they'll go, oh, maybe we should try a slightly younger. So I think maybe 10 more years I can get in the Mousetrap. But other than that, maybe, I don't know. I think it's, if I could do going back to musicals, say if I could be in a musical where I can, because I can sing, I can sing, but
Yeah.
I can't belt, I can't do these incredible things that musical theatre actors can. But you sometimes just get that crossover where it's more of an acting role and they happen to have a song. If I could be in something like that, that would tick off a real sort of childhood dream.
I mean, any particular musical, no matter what comes to mind?
Well, I quite like, let's have a think. I quite like Mamma Mia. I have to say, I'm a big Mamma Mia fan, big ABBA fan. And there's the dads in Mamma Mia. There's Bill, who in the film is Stellan Skarsgård, I think. And his role is not as singing as the other two dads. So that would be quite nice. I could play Traveling Bill.
God damn it. I'm just loving the fact that lots of the Sherlock and Co fans listening to this right now that one of the favourite things you like is Agatha Christie. They're going to absolutely lose their minds. I mean, just because we've got about 5 minutes before the outbreak, have you got a favourite Agatha Christie book?
Ooh. Let's have a think. I like Poirot's and I like Marple's sort of equally, really. I would say not a definite favourite, but I would go with. Gosh, that is hard.
I know there are a lot, and also people do have their favourite Christie detectives.
Yeah, it's tricky just because they are so intricate. I think for me, it's the ones that sort of have real sort of depth and real tragedy. And there's let's have a think. The Body in the Library, say Miss Marple novel, The Body in the Library, which is there's been some great adaptations of that, so really easy to access those adaptations. But with the novel, I think it's the way that she pieces these things together, and this body is found in a library, which happens right at the beginning. It's sort of within the first, it's in the title, so it's no spoiler. And the person whose house it is found in is woken up by the maid. And then the story, progresses. She's friends with Miss Marple and gets Miss Marple involved, and it's quite a sad story. There's often with her writing, I think she kind of embraces really dark elements, and there's young women, children being unfortunately being involved in that in the tragedies in this, and then the piecing together. That's what she does so brilliantly. Sort of all these threads that you think is that a real one? The red herrings that take you down that certain route. But yeah, The Body in the Library, I think, is an excellent place. If anyone's never read any, maybe pick that one up and have a go.
No, I love that. I mean, just to finish with my personal favorite. I mean, there's so many good ones. But like, Death on the Nile has always been a bit of a favorite to me, just because of the twist here. But there was the sort of thing, the first one that made me really love her take on Poirot, like what she did to him as a detective, to sort of like work the room, which I absolutely love. Plus, I think my family showed me like the 1975 film version of Death on the Nile, I think about 15 times in my youth.
Absolutely. Likewise. A brilliant adaptation. The people that are in that film, Lansbury, Maggie Smith, Ustinov, obviously, it's a real sort of big hitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To me, like Ustinov, it will be Poirot to them. Like Kenneth Branagh doing Poirot, and I'll just be like, no, that's just a copy. They're not doing that,
Yeah, everyone has their favourite.
Well, I mean, we're going to go to Sherlock and Co in a second, so we'll get to that. But first off, we're going to go to an ad break right now. So please do whatever you need to do for like 5 minutes or so. Just have some fun. And remember, guys, we're going to have some fun. We are finally going to talk Sherlock and Co. I know you lot have been waiting for it, but I'd like to get to know the man first before I take him out to dinner. So let's have some fun and relax for a bit. And we'll see you guys in about 5 minutes, where we'll finally talk about damn detectives. See you in a bit. Hey guys, welcome back. If you're still joining us on lovetobeRadio.co.uk, we are now in part 2 of the show with the lovely Harry Attwell here. If you're joining us on Spotify and YouTube, you've missed nothing because this is a long podcast and that's just the way it's going to be. So, Harry, it's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
So, we've dragged it on for as little as possible there, but let's finally get into it, which is the fact that you are the voice of one of the most famous detectives in the world, Sherlock Holmes of Sherlock & Co. How did you progress into the audio world? How did you get started in podcasts, especially with Sherlock?
Well, it's all down to the amazing Adam Jarrell and Joel Emery, who are our writers, directors, producers, creators, editors, everything. Adam, I have known since working at the Dominion with Adam back in 2006, 2007. I think we first met. We always got on really well. I knew Adam in his capacity when he was, which he still does sometimes, but he's a performer. He's a fantastic singer, I have to say. He sings sometimes. You'll hear people. I think it was in the Blue Carbuncle. There's somebody singing outside 221B, and they tell him to shut up, and that's Adam singing, and many other occasions that he's cropped up with his voice. And it was 2022, as you mentioned earlier, just as I was starting Mockingbird. Adam got in touch and just said that they were thinking of doing a Sherlock Holmes podcast because they had great success with an amazing series called Jackie the Ripper. If people haven't touched on that yet, it's a very, very dark, funny twist on the Jack the Ripper Whitechapel murders. And also they did an ongoing podcast called The Offensive, which was about a made-up football team, which ran for a few seasons, if you will, especially in the football capacity. And I knew about both of these. I did do a few of the voices for The Offensive. I was a lawyer, I think, at one point, and just a couple of things here and there. And then, Adam rang me and just said, he started to broach it. And in my head, not in a too humble way, but as he was saying about this, in my brain, automatically, I was just thinking he just needs a voice, or he just needs a character for an episode. And he just said, we would love you to play Sherlock. And I was really, really taken aback, really shocked, really surprised and thrilled. And we did have to do a few tester tapes for our amazing producers who are Goalhanger, who are our overseeing sort of arm, if you will. And it was a slow sort of year building up to when we were first dropped. I think we dropped around about October, November of 2023. But it all began in 2022. So we had a year of recording a few episodes. Some of them, I think it was the Red-Headed League, we did a completely different version, had that all wrapped up, ready to go. And then they just thought, no, we're going to switch it. So we re-recorded a brand new version of the Red-Headed League. And so we got about, I think there was about 5 under our belt before they were ever released. And it was interesting in that year because you had no idea how it was going to sound, what it was going to be like. And when they first approached, as I said, I've not done tons of audio work, bits and pieces of radio play here and there. And it was just piecing together, what is this going to be like? And I think this is quite a famous fact about the podcast. We all record individually. We record separately. I'm in my spare room at the moment, and I record in this wardrobe right here. And because if anyone's only listening, behind me is a big white wardrobe. So I open up on that left-hand side there. I open up that door, and it's got compartments for my jumpers. And I clear out the jumpers. I put my microphone, pad it with cushions and things, and I stand there and I do it there. And you just do all of your lines 2, 3, 4, 5 times. In the early days, I used to record a little bit too many because you want to get the version of the line that they want. So you give them you give them options. And so in the early days, you just record your bits, you send your episode off, and that's it. And you just kind of don't know anything else about it until the episode is dropped. And so we had a year of testers of recording those initial episodes, but never heard them back, never heard the complete piece until the first day. And I was doing an office job when it was first released. I was doing an office job, and I used to walk there, sort of near King's Cross, which was about a 45-minute walk for me. So perfect length of a Sherlock & Co episode. And I just put it in my ears as I was walking, and off it went. And it was that music that started. And you're just like, it's that odd thing of sometimes going, I can't believe I'm in this. This is our show, and it's been an incredible ride since then.
Was also just strange. Like, not only am I in this, I'm the lead. I'm him. I'm the guy.
Yeah, totally. I always sort of, I think Paul, as you mentioned, Paul Waggett, with his Watson is incredible. And the more the more we've all listened to the show, because I do listen to every episode and listen sometimes to old episodes when I'm cooking or washing up, just to keep it in my brain. It can sound a little bit vain, and I suppose sometimes it is, but I do like to listen to them all just so I can hear how they've put it together, what they've seen. There's certain episodes where if it's a story that I knew a lot better, like Hound of the Baskervilles, I love that story, and I've seen different versions, heard different versions over the years, and I wanted to know obviously how ours was pieced together. And yeah, it is always a bit of a pinch me moment with regards to being Sherlock in it, and trying to keep his the genuine and the right sort of path for him as these episodes progress, because you start to be more comfortable in recording. You start to, in my head, I can hear Paul Waggett, obviously as Watson, and we've got Martin De Silva, who's amazing as Mariana, and as I'm reading the script, I'm seeing their lines before mine, so I'm giving my cue, and now I can hear how perhaps Paul will say it, how Martin will say it.
Just going to ask you about that, just because like there's a weird, it must be a strange feeling, because you have worked in literary productions where like everyone's at least is in the room, where you can build off character, you can bounce off each other. How is the feeling of like, you're right, no one, I mean, Paul's in goddamn New Zealand, he's thousands of miles away from you, and you have to constantly bounce off each other with your voice only. Is it strange sort of just acting alone in a cupboard?
Yes, sometimes, definitely, especially in those early days, as I say, because you just didn't have a clue what the show was going to be when it came out, and subsequent years since. I've been able to now visualize things a lot better. I've been able to picture them. I've been able to, as I said, hear their voices delivering these lines. Credit really, as I say, to Adam and Joel, because they are masters. And there are times I'll hear these episodes where you've got a lot of Foley going on. So there's motorbike chases, or in Sign of Four, I think, where we had the tuk-tuk rides over in India. Amazing, amazing audio drama happening at the same time as you've got these sound effects of zooming past people. And I've been to India on holiday, and it sort of got that essence of it so fantastically. And I'm always completely in awe of those two, because there are times when we do our pickups. So you'll send off the episode, Adam will get to work on the edit. You'll hear that something's either you fluffed a line, or he's not got a clean version, or just you haven't quite got the intonation that he's looking for the scene to progress in the way he needs. And then he'll come back to you, and then he'll give you a little bit more specific direction, because we're so used to being directed, and in a play, obviously, television, film, or as you say, a radio drama where you are all together with the director. When it's just you haven't got that person over your shoulder saying, try this, try that. And if you're having, we all have them, if you're having a slightly fuzzy headed day, and you haven't quite got the clarity, or you haven't quite got the, what would you say, sort of the imagination's perhaps not fired up enough to kind of get some of these creative juices going on certain bits, you sort of warm up to it as you record for a few hours. But if you're not quite there, it is lovely to have those little reminders every now and then from Adam a few weeks later, just to be, try this, try that. And it gives you just that little, that help that you do need as an actor sometimes, because it's their show, it's their vision for those episodes, and you want to kind of guide him into the episode correctly, for them.
Well, I mean, I have to say, because I've had Adam on this show before, and he sang nothing but praises about you. But, in terms of the fact that you were perfect for the role of Sherlock. But one thing he did mention, which I was still a bit surprised about, just because I wanted to know, Sherlock Holmes is an iconic character. It's one that every generation, no matter how old you are, they have their Sherlock. They have their Sherlock Holmes, like who they are. And you remind that you've never actually seen the modern Sherlock, Benedict Cumberbatch, which so many people, I think, have based your Sherlock on.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Exactly.
But I just want to know, like, who is your Sherlock based on? Do you have anyone in mind of, like, okay, this is who he's going to be?
Yeah, I've got to say, really recently, the last couple of weeks, one of my nieces was watching one, and I did, for the first time, watch half an episode. I don't remember which one, so I have actually now
finally
seen.
Watched it.
really watched it. Really, very much enjoyed it, I have to say. But for me, I he's sort of a mix in my brain. I think because of his neurodivergence, which I feel this show beautifully sort of embraces and doesn't shy away from, or doesn't try to pretend it's something other than his brain, and the reasons his brain works certain ways is because of that. And I think in our society, we are so much better at acceptance of understanding, of trying to understand each other a lot better, and working out why we are programmed the way we are. And there are people who are fans of the show when we have meet and greets, which is always amazing to meet so many people involved in the show. A lot of our fans, yeah, have different needs, or have different ways that they work, that they live their lives. And when you meet people who kind of tap into Sherlock, or our Sherlock, because of the way that we've been able to present him, I think I wanted to make sure that that was always clear. And so I think when I'm trying to be, when he's trying to work things out, the basic bit of his life, let alone the adventures, when he's trying to plan his dinner, he loves his penne pasta and he sticks with that. And I think his his exactness in those situations, that's what I'll try and focus on, and make sure that when I'm delivering these lines, as I said, I give them several versions, but in each of those it will be sort of like an innocence to perhaps not understanding why John will be annoyed that he's I don't know, tapping away, or he does his stimming, things like that, which is put in post production. I have to say the stimming, but I know that he's doing it. So when I'm recording, a sense that anyone that's watching this visually can see I'm moving my thumbs, but it's that sort of stimming, and it's that sort of memory of him trying to focus himself. The I think I've said this once before. If you've ever seen the film Clue with Tim Curry, which is one of my all-time favorites, it's a wonderful.
Oh my god, I remember that movie.
Yeah, it's one of those films I watch at least once a year, if not 2, 3 times in a year. Wonderful because it's a pastiche of the murder mystery, which, as I say, I love my Agatha Christie. But Tim Curry, at the end of the film, playing Wordsworth the butler, he does his denouement of kind of breaking down the murders in the film, and he's got this mania about him, and it's so brilliant and such a wonderful performance. And it is a comedy, yes, and our show, it is a comedy too, but it has a very dark side as well. I feel like I channel Tim Curry with his clarity of thought, the way that he kind of deals with trying to get all the facts out, trying to get these big chunks that we sometimes have, try and keep that clarity, but with an urgency, with a zip. And so I've sort of got a mix of that, and also, well, and Jeremy Brett. Jeremy Brett was the Sherlock, which I did used to watch as a child, and which was on ITV over here. And I remember his archness, his precision, his exactness, and his mannerisms, I think. So I sort of try to, I guess, wobble between the two of them if I can.
Well, I mean, I listen to Sherlock and Co regularly. I've listened to all shows in the past, even today. But it's like, you talk about like the little quirks that Sherlock has, including the penne pasta, the fact he has a rat, the fact that he absolutely adores Christmas, that sort of things. How much of the little quirks is like you suggesting things, or Ellen suggesting things? How much is like the to and fro, like making the character?
I think it's become definitely both. I think there'll be things that I probably throw in some takes that are never heard. What we do try to make sure is there isn't too much. What I do, I'm guilty of a little bit, is this sort of stuttering slightly thing. I think when he starts to say something, he says it. Occasionally, I'll throw in the odd sort of minor stammer as he starts a word, or I think it's depending on the scene, and that's me forming the thing in his brain and throwing it out. So the line might not necessarily have a st dot 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 st dot 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 stop. That's me maybe throwing those in. But as I said earlier, Adam certainly has his vision, and Joel as well. If I throw too many of those in, then they'll have a word. So I think it's a little bit of a mix of all of us really. And what I will make sure is it's keeping the energy, and that's down to me on the day when I'm recording, to make sure I'm energized. And it's as basic as have a good breakfast. I do warm-ups around the flat just before I'm about to start to recording, because in the mornings, if I usually record in the morning, and my wife's gone to work early, say I'm talking to our cats, I haven't really used my mouth a lot that morning, so to kind of like get my tongue around some words and all that sort of thing. So I'll try to warm up a little bit and then get into it. And as long as I'm clear with the words and precise, because it's people are hearing it, that you haven't got the added thing of visualizing it.
Well, let's get into it a little bit. So just like, so the vocal warm-ups, what exactly is your process? Like, so you record them on this phone to your cats, which is, I imagine, perfect Sherlock to just talk to people who can't talk back. Like, what would you say is like, do you have like a process like, okay, this is what I need to do to perfect the voice to get into Sherlock?
Yeah, it's clarity. So perhaps I'll do, silly things like ums and ahs, and because my voice is slightly deeper, I suppose, the resonance of it. I try to, again, the days leading up to a recording, I'll just listen to a couple of the more recent ones because I have slightly changed. He has slightly changed as the character has developed. So if I listen to the early episodes and then I listen to a later episode, I can hear a clear difference between there. I think it's as simple as the relationship between Sherlock Watson and Mariana. Even the three of them have now become such a tight unit that they are engaging in a very different way. Even the fact that Sherlock now calls her Mariana, he's not calling her Mrs. Hudson. Things like that. Exactly. And I think he needs to have obviously that similar sound throughout. I think I will, like I say, ums and ahs, silly things like I'll just say Watson, Watson, yes, Watson, and I'll just try to get those words out, which I know are in the script. Definitely, there are others which come up. I will. Things like, for me as a human, I have what is called, which I didn't know until I got to drama school, I have a relaxed R. So it's very difficult with my own name because my name is Harry, and I've got
Harry.
Harry, and I need to sometimes pronunciate my own name because I've had posts in the past written for Howie, Howie has come through because I've been on the phone, I've given someone my name, and I've obviously just got Harry. Like Peter Cook in The Princess Bride. He is the priest at the end of that film, and it's like marriage, and I've got a slight relaxed R, and no shade on anyone else that suffers from that as well.
No, of course not.
I'm one of those people, and it's things like that. And so when I'm doing the play as well, or when I'm warming up to be on stage, look at the little royal people, things like that. So then you start to get the mouth around those words that are going to be a little bit tricky.
It's a testament to your trade that I generally didn't even hear it. You sounded perfectly right there.
Good. I'm trying to be on best behaviour today.
Well, I mean, have you listened to earlier episodes, especially like the very early stuff? Have you ever noticed like the things that you would do? You were like, wow, I didn't realize like certain words or certain bits that you would pronounce too much, or bits where you're just like, wow, I can't believe I did that then. Thank God I don't do that now. Or like, oh, I've moved on so much from then.
Yeah, sort of. If we go back to the very first episode, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I feel like it's correct because it was how we formed it. I think he's a lot more standoffish. I think he's a lot more clipped in a way. When they first meet, and Sherlock's on the treadmill thing, trying to, gosh, what's he doing? I think he's stabbed himself, hasn't he, to try and work out something. And he's talking to John about the injured leg and the drugs that can help him, things like that. I hear it, and I haven't listened to that one for a bit, but I have, not too long ago, just to hark myself back to the beginning. Like I say, I feel there's a standoffish quality to the voice and a little bit more dismissive, I think. And if I justify that, I can go, well, that makes sense because, as we say, they've lived together now for 2 years or so. They're best friends. There's a warmth between them, and there's also a working relationship between Watson and Sherlock at this point now, which they didn't have at that beginning. So I can kind of forgive it a little bit. I think they stand. If somebody listens to the first one and for whatever reason jumped to the most recent, I don't think there's too much, nothing too different. So people would be completely baffled or anything like that. But it's interesting hearing that. Just those slight differences.
I think it's safe to say that whilst production and sound quality and things have got a bit better in the two years, like any podcast does, the core with you three hasn't changed as much in the sense like you'll still hear you, and it's the perfect. I mean, like you said, the first episode I haven't listened to in ages, but it's like you as Sherlock was perfect then, and you haven't changed as much now because why would you? Yeah, I love that you talk about the relationship, like because John and Sherlock to me is like one of my favorite bits is like I can't remember what's like episode 4 or 5, like Son of Four, where it's like you're on the tuk tuk racing around, and you're like you're saying, "Oh, I see the light at the end of the tunnel." And it's John going, "Yeah, that's heaven. That's heaven for me and hell for you." And Sherlock goes, "But we come as a pair." It's like this is like, "Yep, that's the core of your relationship. You are in it together." But
Yeah, definitely.
getting into it, so I mean, playing Sherlock, of course, as the lead is fantastic, but it also means that there is Sherlock talks a lot. There are, I imagine, huge numbers of pieces of monologues and scripts where like Adam and Joel give to you, and you're like, "Oh no, there's so much talking there." Has there been a particular episode or a particular bit where they've just gone, "Oh yeah, you can do it," and you're like, "Really?"
Well, yes, yes, I would agree. I think that's true. I think as I go through the script, you get to those chunks, and you're like, right, here we go, and I will read it out loud without recording, just so I've got my mouth around it and actually said it. And then for me, I'm so clueless sometimes about the editing process, and so if I fluff halfway through, I know that I can carry on. Adam will brilliantly pick up at a point in that speech where I've taken a breath or I've taken a pause, and he can splice 2 or 3 recordings together and make the perfect version of that speech that they want. I always try to give, obviously, the most most comprehensive that you can, or the best version. When I, for me, it's some of the big words, it's some of the medical terms, it's some of the longer names. Well, saying that actually during Silver Blaze, I don't know which is, I still can't remember which one's correct. I think I was either saying Silver Blaze or Silver Blaze, and it wasn't what we were all doing. It's the inconsistency sometimes where you're doing this, you're doing the scene, and you're going for hours and hours, and then you get your head, you can't remember the right version. So sometimes Adam will leave me voice notes when we're doing pickups and being like, do and not he won't sort of do a line reading, but he'll be very specific, and sometimes that's a real help because it just allows me to get those moments which I need, just a few pointers. The big speeches, if I you can do one sort of sometimes which isn't quite right, but it gives them and you options. I think that's the other thing. It's the same as rehearsing a play. You can do a scene all day, and you when you're doing a play, just in rehearsals, and you'll try something which is completely wrong, but at least you've tried it. You've given it that opportunity. You've given it that option to be aired, and it's the same with the odd line in this, which can be the smallest line up to the biggest speech, where you just give them options and yourself options in your brain to just, if anything, just scrub it out and go, that was totally wrong. So I know I need to go in another direction.
No, I love that. I mean, because like you said, you've known Adam for years, so he knows you very much of like what you both can do, what you ask of each other. But has there been
Yeah.
a moment where it's like, just for fun and a positive note, where like he said, "Oh yeah, Sherlock could do this," and you'll be like, "I don't know if Sherlock would say that particular thing." He's just like, he'll say it.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think I always do what I'm told. I think that's what I try to do as a performer. So I will certainly do it. There have been times when maybe I'll throw in an option of a take, and I genuinely can't think of an example, but it won't be anything sort of massive or heavy. It would be more like um, colloquialisms, or perhaps splicing, even saying shan't, maybe. This is a bizarre example, which they'll probably pick me up on if they hear this, but say, would he say shan't, or would he say shall not? It's things like that as you're doing the line, because he tends to be very particular with his words and actually not splice things together too much. And so sometimes I'll do that. And other times for me, it's accents, because as you know, he disguises himself
Yeah,
occasionally. In oh my goodness, I'm trying to think, a recent one. I think I had to do a Scouse accent, and the joy of recording is, of course, you can do lots and lots of versions. And so
yeah.
as I was doing these, I said into the microphone, I remember saying something like, "I'm so sorry about this," and I did many takes, because the Scouse is there somewhere, but it needed a few takes to kind of nail the exact sound that we were after. So it can be tricky.
No, I do love that with that show with this guys, just because I listen to it so much, and the times was just like you do put on an accent, or Sherlock puts on an accent. I'm just thinking like, because your voice is very distinct. It's safe to say like I know when Sherlock is talking. So there's the moment just like, okay, there's Sherlock doing an accent. Or like, it's just like, okay, that's him trying to do something weird. But it's like, which is absolutely hilarious. But it's like, do you have like a weird sense of ownership now that like this is your Sherlock? That this like that used to like, because I mean, like I said, there's generations that people know their Sherlocks and things, but it's like, especially with that kind of character that also does have a long literary history. There are Sherlockian fans out there who like have a deep sense, like they know who the character of Sherlock Holmes is. Have you had to sort of like go up against fans, or in a polite way, see like, okay, yeah, this is what my Sherlock does. This is not what the actual Sherlock does. You know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you play literary characters who do have such a history. I think Sherlock for me is the main one, but you mentioned Frankenstein earlier, which
Oh
a play
yeah,
I did at the Royal Exchange up in Manchester, and that was another character where we all have this preconceived idea, I think, of a version of Frankenstein or a version of Sherlock. As an actor, it's the same with Shakespeare's. I've played Hamlet. I played Hamlet not in the version we were talking about, but in a
yeah.
previous version. There's been 100,000. There's so many of these people, and the same with Sherlock. And as we mentioned, Benedict Cumberbatch's version. When I read I do read reviews, but I don't read too many comments on the podcast uh, providers, just because
Yeah.
there's no need really. But when I have read the odd one, he's just like I saw a few negatives saying, oh, it's basically just a rip off of
Yeah,
Cumberbatch.
we ignore them.
Yeah, you could go that. I can understand that it's a slightly well spoken bloke, doing those lines, playing that type of role, and obviously delivering, the Sherlock stories that people are used to. So I can understand. I think it's being confident in your own version and holding true to that. I think as long as we stay consistent with our version, then anyone that does rebut it or says no, this isn't my version, you go, that's fine. Same with, as we say, Poirot's. For me, my Poirot is David Suchet, but I can watch Ustinov, I can watch Albert Finney, I can listen to John Moffat, who did an incredible series of those stories on the radio, and I can tap into each of them in their version, because you're seeing that character through that actor's eyes and through that production's version of him, and that's what we have. So anyone that does have issues with it, I think fair game, because it's not going to be for everyone. I think I did read one review a little while ago, which just wrote, "This is awful," and you just go, "That's fine."
Well, what do I do there?
Yeah, exactly. What can I do? Fine. It wasn't for you. Try somebody else's version, and that's okay. So as long as for me, it's about our version, keeping true to the Sherlock and Co. version of John Mariano. Well, Mariano, obviously Mrs. Hudson and more, but and Sherlock, of course, for me.
Let's say if you assume anyone listening to us right now is at least caught up to not the most recent episode of the Musgrave trial, but it's just like they're caught up to as much as possible, just because it's a bit weird to sort of just have it out there in the open. But so like you say, you do the first five that comes out, and it's just like, were you surprised that, like, because the fandom of Sherlock and Co. is immense, not just here but also worldwide. You have fans all over the world now who like know your voice. They're like, they know you as Sherlock now. It's like, is that daunting? Is that strange to be like, oh wow, like so many people now know? I mean, people obviously knew you. They knew all your work experience, but it's like, do they know? How many people now know you as Sherlock?
Yeah, it does blow my mind a bit. It's sort of I find it really really amazing, and really like I say, when I get messages on Instagram from people wherever they may be, I respond, and you're sort of so touched and pleased that they're enjoying the show, but also that they support it and that they continue to support. I think one of our things that we're so proud of is the number of downloads. Because the competition in podcasts is crazy, in the podcast world, when you investigate a little bit, you look at the charts, you look at see where we are sometimes, and we still do pretty well. And the fact that it's kept that longevity of popularity, that there's still the downloads happening every week, that we are still there's still an appetite for it, I think is really really lovely, and makes you proud of it.
Well, I mean, I think I've checked the charts recently, and it's very just funny, just because, especially going back earlier, like I mean, I think when new episodes come out, you're always at least number 2 or 3 because I think the one podcast I think right now that beats you is ironically Hugh Bonneville reading Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. I saw that. I saw that as well, and he does a lovely job. I've listened to a couple of his, and yeah, he does a very, very nice, a very good job of those. So good on you for that.
No, I just love that parallel is just like it's my damn shit, it's my damn role. You're reading it for me.
Yes, and I
So, I
killed
mean,
him already.
do you? I mean, I guess a lot of people know. They don't obviously assume, but they must assume that at least you are a bit of a Sherlock Holmes fan in the sense that you must have you read any of the stories, or at least read like no, do you know any of the books?
Yes, as I said earlier, Hound of the Baskervilles I is the one that really I tapped into most as a child. There was a shortened version that I used to get from the library sometimes. I did a play version, which was called The Great Murder Mystery, but it was an adaptation of The Hound of the Baskervilles about 5 years ago, where I played Watson, in fact. So I sort of did the dual thing,
Hey,
playing them both, which is nice. You know, nice to have that and know that I've seen both characters through my eyes. So again, that was a version of Baskervilles that I invested in. So I read that again. The short stories, yeah, I'm trying to think. Not tons, I have to say, but I've got a collection, and I think every now and then I've had a look through, or I think Red-Headed League. I saw the Jeremy Brett version, so because of seeing that, then for me, a lot of my when I'm walking or when I'm going to bed, or if I'm pottering or cooking, things like that. I love listening to audiobooks and radio plays, especially of things that I already know, which I know sounds sometimes a little bit strange, but it means if I'm snoozing before bed and I'm listening to something and I miss 10 minutes, it doesn't matter because I can
no,
go back on it, but also
I
you
get the
know the
complete.
story, you know. Yeah, it's a very useful thing. So I've listened to the, so I think it was Michael Williams. Is it John Moff? No, Michael Williams did as Watson. He did a BBC Clive Merrison. It's Clive Merrison and Michael Williams did the whole canon on BBC Radio, and I've got that whole
Oh,
collection. I've got Stephen Fry's collection, and there's some very old ones. You know, you can go back. I think there's some versions on YouTube. YouTube for well, one of the great things is obviously some people have put on some old recordings. I think it's Ian Richardson and John Gielgud doing radio versions, which I think were broadcast in I want to say the 40s or 50s for American audiences on the radio. So you've got so many versions that you can tap into, and there is something about having that way of listening to the stories and things. That's kind of how I've done it, more than sitting down actually, you know, churning through the books. It's sort of been adaptations or reading Stephen Fry or whoever reading them.
no, well, I mean, I've listened to Stephen Fry. I mean, I have read them, but I also have Stephen Fry doing them. It's also fantastic just because to me, like, that's another version of Sherlock and Watson. Just to me, yeah. But like, I guess I mean, no harsh about it. I mean, like, you do so many roles. It's not expected. Like, it's like expecting like you to have read Frankenstein and do Frankenstein. Whereas like you don't have to read it. You just know the roles. But
Yeah, adaptations again. You know, sometimes with Kill a Mockingbird, when we first started rehearsing that back in 2022, Aaron Sorkin was there, and he said, "Forget the novel because this is our version of the novel." With all due respect, in certainly to Harper Lee's novel, it wasn't ignore it. It was more like this is this version of this. So
yeah,
take the play as the source, and every now and then you go back to the novel for a bit of backstory about certain bits and pieces. So sometimes it's good to, like with Sherlock, you can listen to the adaptations and then you can go back to the original and be a bit like Joel has somehow managed to piece these things together so brilliantly, where there is enough of the shadow of the original, but they're in a completely different world.
oh no, man, I love that just because every time like a new Sherlock story comes out, I'm thinking like, oh wow, how are you going to do this? Because there's always one or two I'm waiting just to be like, oh, how are you going to do this one? Because there are so many. There are so many strange Sherlock Holmes stories. So I'm just like, oh, I'll be amazed if you ever get this one done. Just because it's so bizarre. But another thing that comes out there with the fandom is that there is a lot of fan art, especially with the fan
Mm.
that you get fan art, which I imagine you have seen.
Yes, yes.
So, are you well? First off, did you have an idea of what your Sherlock looked like?
Yeah, I think his height, which I'm tall, I'm 6'3", so I've got that sort of stature. I think I did always have him as quite tall and quite, I guess a bit lithe. I think uh, you see, it's weird with characters because you sort of you're doing it, you form it, but again, it was as things progress, and then fans started producing the art, and at the meet and greets or what's on Instagrams, they're incredible and they're passionate. I don't know if you've ever seen on YouTube, if you type in Sherlock and Co on YouTube, there are visualizations that people have created. Sometimes
Yes.
the community is amazing, and there's an incredible what's it called? Oh gosh, it's a chat room thing where, oh god,
Oh,
I can't remember what
Discord?
it's called. Discord. Thank you so much. Oh my god, you tell her I'm not on there, but Discord, their community, what they've created between them, and how they all digitally meet up, talk about these things, and do versions of the episodes. Or there's lovely. Somebody's even done a kind of forward thinking, Reichenbach back falls moment, or how John will cope, and things like that, because that will happen. Spoiler alert. But it's amazing. I'm in such awe of the fans for how every week there's a new one for obviously the stories as they
Well,
release, but also when we meet them, they're brilliant.
well, I mean, to give props to the fans as well, they should also on YouTube check out the full animated version of the first episode of Sherlock and Co, which they did do. You had like fans like remake the whole episode in animation, which is
Yes,
amazing.
you're right. Yeah, it is completely amazing and brilliant that they do it.
So yeah, just to get, sorry, you just mentioned before we go to the other thing, I do love the fact that with the Reichenbach Falls, fans have now finally caught on to the idea of John singing TLC's "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls." It was like, please stop saying that line. I know it
I
doesn't
know.
mean it, you damn it. But I
I
mean,
know.
so the fan art out there, the way that they have drawn, there is sort of like now a collective consciousness in the Discord, like, okay, this is what Marianne, this is what John Watson, this is what Sherlock look like.
Yeah.
Has that been perplexing you to be like, oh, that's how you guys see Sherlock? Of like, because I mean, let's be honest, it doesn't look anything like you.
Completely. I think John and how they've made John look is not too dissimilar to Paul and Mariana. It's sort of similarities with me, like you say, completely different in many regards. He's got a lot more hair than me for one, and I like that. I think that's good, and it does help me because when I'm recording now, I can visualize him and their version, especially moments of. I'm trying to think. What automatically came to mind then is things like the ear defenders that he wears, and his style. It sort of makes me appreciate as I'm saying these things. How would he even move? How would he deal with having these on? All that sort of thing. So they've it sort of created this underbelly of the character, which you couldn't have foreseen because we had no idea that this reaction would come, and the amazing art that they produced for us is there. So it's lovely to have that back and forth and get ideas almost from them about bits and pieces with the character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen fans like take full monologues that you've done and put them on shirts. I'm thinking like that is dedication. Also, just like I said, you guys, you talk. There's a lot of Sherlock speeches that they're launched, so to get them all onto one shirt is a testament to itself.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I mean, what is like the most amazing bit of reaction that you've had from a fan where they're like, oh wow, I'm so amazed have you ever had a reaction where they've made something or like they've made like a shirt or something that for you?
Yes, if you can give me a second, I can show you.
Go
I've got
ahead.
to quickly go over here. I'm so sorry for the listeners.
Nah, no worries. This, for the audio people, you're just going to suffer because this is what's going to happen. You don't get to see the glamorous of Harry Attwell's famous wardrobe, which
Yes,
such a marvel.
because the other one I can't find, but this somebody made plushie toys, and so this
Oh
is the
way!
plushie toy. So this is Sherlock, and so this is so amazing. And a guy produced these. I can't remember his name, but he's amazing. If you're watching, they're amazing. There's a plushie toy of Sherlock, and there's a plushie toy of Watson, and this is Sherlock. And so to have this somebody at a meet and greet, somebody appeared, and he'd come from the States. He travelled with these, and he just came up to us, and we always do a bit of a chat, and then we go and meet people. And he came up and he just said, I want to give you this, and it's so it's touching. It's baffling, it's wonderful, and you just then you've got this. So if nothing else, if I need a quick reminder how that person and others, I have to say this is kind of a sort of a similar arc, how a lot of the art comes with regards to Sherlock. And so I've got him there. It's in my brain, and now to have this little thing, you think I like the idea that yeah, that's what he's like. So that is a prime example of how amazing they are. But it can be everything from beautiful artwork. Some people produce artworks of us as the real us, and others do it of how they see the characters. And it's like I say, it's really moving. It's lovely.
Do you have a preference? Do you have ones where it's like they prefer them drawing you, or do you prefer the ones where they draw him?
I think him because it's just lovely to see, because it's just the voice that's there, to then have that extra element of the visual of the whole package. I suppose it just opens the brain, like you said, the animation of the first episode. When you're watching those, you go, God, it's so nice to see it, as opposed to to just have it in the ears.
Wow, I can't believe we have a plushie of Sherlock, which you guys need to sell. That's the thing. Where it's like, if you guys don't sell that, you should.
Yeah, he needs to tap into Adam and Joel, I think, and come up with some sort of something together.
Well, I know what to clip now. I know what to send to them now. So, all right. So we're getting to the last 15 minutes of the show, which you've been a fantastic pleasure. And so we're going to go into the rapid fire questions, which these aren't like, oh, I want like quick answers, but these are like the things where it's just like, I want at least like a good answer. Because we got 15 minutes, we can still chat about it, but I want like at least a decent answer to these questions. And we'll keep the limit to Sherlock and Co. in it, just to give people a chance of like, okay, I know these are hard, but I want these answers. So let's start with the first one. Easiest episode to work on?
Hound of the Baskervilles, because I love it as a story, and I knew the characters, knew the whole thing so well, and was very excited about when we got to do that one.
Fair enough. Any particular episode in there in that 10-parter, or is it just the whole thing as a whole?
I would go with maybe the let's have a think. When Sherlock appears again, when he's gone for a few episodes, comes back, he's the man on the moor, if you will, and when he appears again, that lovely moment with them two coming back together and John and him connecting again.
I think that's like episode 6 or something like that, which is so fantastic. Okay, now we move on to the flip side. Hardest episode to work on?
Ooh, I would say, let's have a think. We'll go with the first one. Mr. Sherlock Holmes, because it was a real finding our feet. It was trying to get the character and work slowly to creating him. So it was early days. So I'd go with the first one.
Fair enough. I guess that makes sense. Okay. Toughest role you've ever played?
Ooh, toughest role, I would say physically and sort of mentally draining was Frankenstein, because to play the creature, you're not playing a full body. He was made up of lots of pieces of other humans, and he was trying to form a life and copy people and try and do the right thing. And so that was a real challenge, and it was exhausting. So it was quite a tough gig.
I can't imagine. I mean, how long was that production for? How long did you have to do that for?
It was about 5 weeks. So it was a short. Manchester Royal Exchange is always quite short blast. So it was 5 weeks. So about 45 shows. Not too long in the grand scheme.
Is it nice with the roles like that, which are physically exhausting, where you're like, this is tough. I'm going to lose so much weight at the end of this. It's going to be so nice.
I was going to say it did really help. Yes, with that, I sort of lost a few pounds over that job. It's got its pros definitely, and it was amazing as well. It was an incredible creative team, and I had a bodysuit made for me, and it was a really lovely job.
Well, I imagine it's those kind of roles are the ones where like, I loved every bit of it. Don't ask me to do that again. That was a nightmare.
That's it. That one didn't come back.
Yeah. All right. Now as we flip side of that, the funnest role that you ever played.
I would go to a play called The Crucible by Arthur Miller, which I did at the Old Vic Theatre about 12 years ago now. A very serious character called Mr. Putnam, who isn't a joke a minute, but he was so fervent and angry and passionate with the kind of confusion of what's happening in that village in the play. It was really, again, it was very intense, but it was real fun because they configured the Old Vic to be in the round, so the audiences were all around you, and you felt you were in the middle of this real cauldron of of passion and fire, and so every day it was a real challenge to kind of build up to that and reach that further each day. So that was fun. It was hard, but it was good fun.
No, I love that no matter what you see each role as a challenge. I was like, okay, this is what the role calls for it. I'm gonna damn well do it. You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, has there ever been a role where it's just like, oh, thank God, I can relax a bit?
Yes, I sort of think. I would say, obviously, you're on. You know, when you're on stage, you've got to be ready. You've got to be on. But I think with what is nice sometimes if you, I don't know, which I would say like some of the bigger plays where you're part of a lot of scenes. Say it could be To Kill a Mockingbird, for instance, Richard II. I had which Shakespeare did with Eddie Redmayne in London a few years back. I had scenes where I was very very present, but other bits it's a court scene. A lot of Shakespeare's have a lot of court scenes. So some scenes, you know, you're standing there, kind of one of the numbers in the background, and then you come, you know, in the next scene you're a bit more involved. So every now and then it's nice to have a little bit less to do, so you get time to have a breather.
Well, it's just nice to be like, oh, I don't have to talk. I can just stand here for a bit. It's like, you know.
That's it. As long as you're poised and you're on, yeah.
Of course. Okay, moving on. So, favorite line or monologue you remember?
From Sherlock.
We'll do two. So let's do Sherlock and Co first, and then we'll do just in general. So Sherlock and Co.
Ooh. I think they're very short. It's things like "Good God," you know, "Good God, good God," and he sort of comes out with that. And I think whenever I see there's a "Good God" coming up, I'm like, okay, good. This is a nice sort of.
I will say this right now. That was Adam's bit as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, really. That's nice. Yeah, I think they're good.
Yeah, I was like, what's your favorite? He was like, anytime Harry says "Good God," like it's like makes damn sense.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, because I love them as well. I mean, I also love your speeches in between shows. I mean, one of my favorites of yours is I think it's Scandal Bohemia, where it's like Sherlock is just like doing a monologue of like a character that he's made up, and he's gone so far into the backstory. It's just like it's a full Shakespeare monologue of just like, wow, like Sherlock, you should do acting. This is really good.
Yeah, it was the actor who, and it was really sad, wasn't it? His parents, things like that. And it got really emotional as well. I remember that bit. It kind of turned a corner. At first, I thought it was going to be quite funny, and then you get to that bit, and he gets very upset. I remember that guy.
No, I absolutely love it. Okay, so favorite podcast other than yours?
Ooh, I gotta say, I don't listen to many. I like. If I can quickly reference, I've got my phone next to me. I'm going to go quickly onto a podcast. The one that I do listen to, History Extra podcast, is one which I do like, which is produced through the History Extra. Gosh, that's it's just called the History Extra podcast. They just cover a range of historical things, very very in-depth research, but they're always they go. There's one which is about the Great British Seaside. The next episode might be about Genghis Khan. So you can just kind of get a blast of kind of history and in quite a manageable sort of chunk. Things like that. I just like to kind of learn a bit more as I go along with. So that's the one that I sort of tap back into. But so what I don't really listen to is three mates sat around bantering about stuff. Those ones I don't listen to too much. I did appear on one called Rage Whale, which I will shout out to one called Rage Whale as well. They do an amazing film podcast, so they're very cool too.
No, I welcome the plug. I'll also notify the rest is history from Goldhanger that you're not their favourite.
Well, that goes without saying, of course. You know, all of the rest is history, rest is politics, whichever one.
Don't worry, it's all fine. They love you. We skipped one just because I forgot about it. But like favorite line or monologue that you remember that's not Sherlock and Co.
Oh yes. Oh gosh. I think it would have to be maybe in Macbeth. There's what is called the dagger speech. Is that a dagger I see before me? I got into drama school using that monologue, so it will always have a special place in my heart because it got me to where I am. So thank you, Mr. Shakespeare, for that.
Nah. Well, then we'll add on to those little bits extra there. Favorite Shakespeare play you ever done?
I would say, um, gosh, perhaps, or so many lovely memories with lots of. I did. I'll go back to Richard II that I mentioned earlier. That was a really special job. Eddie
Yeah,
Redmayne was Richard II. We had a great cast. It was Michael Grandage's final production at the Donmar Warehouse in London, which he'd run for 10 years. And so it was a lovely goodbye for him, and also a fantastic cast and really lovely show.
I love that. I love that it's also not one of the big ones, which is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now we'll do that. So let's just say in general, favorite Sherlock Holmes stories, not the episodes, just any story, which I'm guessing is.
I guess Under the Baskervilles, but if it was another one, I perhaps. Oh gosh, I do love Red-Headed League just for the insanity of the Red-Headed League, the original, with the chap being having that job. I think in the original he's writing. He has to write
Yeah, he's writing
constantly,
the
doesn't
dictionary or something stupid like that.
he? That's it. Well, they keep him. I love the idea of it, and a very good ploy to get somebody away from the house or the building in order to do a robbery. So I do love that one, and also it's a ginger thing too. So
Oh yeah, of
I'm
course.
gingers all the way.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I can't remember which ones are my favorite. I mean, The Sign of Fools was a good one, just because like also just
Yeah.
the way it was adapted that you guys did, but the book as well is fantastic. But also, I can't remember what it's called. One that I want to hear and I'm waiting for is The Greek Interpreter, just because of
Mm.
a particular character that I imagine a lot of the fandom was waiting to hear.
Okay.
But so let's get into the last bit. Well, last two. So like, we'll say three. So top three favorite episodes of Sherlock and Co.
Okay. I would go with the Blue Carbuncle, which I mentioned earlier, because like Sherlock, I absolutely adore Christmas, and yeah, I'm a big fan of everything Christmassy. I start listening to Christmas music about June, and I thoroughly embrace Christmas music and Christmas in itself. Don't tell anyone. So Blue Carbuncle, I absolutely love. Um, I would say, I think, I think Sign of Four, I think was so well done, so bittersweet and such a spectrum of emotions for everyone, particularly obviously John involved in that one. So that I really, really loved that. And I really like Silver Blaze. I think Silver Blaze was a game changer with regards to that opening section of Silver Blaze, where it's the media sort of what would you call it? All the snippets and clips of politicians suddenly, and we had Rory Stewart actually appearing, as himself, kind of doing bits and pieces. And I think they really made an amazing job of that episode. So yeah, that story. Sorry, so I love it.
No, I love that. I mean, I'll give you mine as well, just for the sake of it. The line,
Please.
the Lion's Mane, which yeah, you
Mm,
go up to Skull, which I absolutely love, just because the music as well and everything else is so fantastic. Um,
yeah.
Christmas, I also do the Three Gables because I think that's a
Hmm.
fantastic episode. Also, just because you somehow got Gary Lineker in that and Richard
Oh
and
my
Richard
goodness,
Osmond.
we got the boss in, and poor Richard Osman trying to get a drink constantly. Breakfast Entertainment is another one worth mentioning. I feel bad I didn't mention any Goal Hanger podcast. I love Goal Hanger podcasts.
No,
So fire me.
I didn't throw you on the bus there, just for fun.
No, it's good. It's good reminding me.
And it's just another one. Just because I recently listened to it is How the Basketballs the way you did it, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
Uh,
great.
and last one out there as to sign it off. Favorite Sherlock Holmes. Yeah,
Yeah, Jeremy Brett for me,
yeah.
for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Beautiful performance, really delicate and intense, but also he just had a lovely quality to his physicality, which I think really made the whole character come together. I think he
No,
was
I mean,
fantastic.
I completely agree with that. I mean, Adam did say you, and I'll add myself to you on that one. You are my favorite Sherlock right now, which I absolutely fantastic.
Thank
But
you.
I also commend that Jeremy did bring something to light that I don't think anyone else has done. You are, if you want in it, I would say Jeremy, but the fact that you're in it is like, no, you're my favorite.
That's very sweet. Thank you so much.
No, I agree with that. I love that. So that is it for the questions. That is it. So thank you so much for being a part of this show, Harry. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and know your craft and know your life and everything else. So please let everyone out there know, how do we find you? What do we see you next in?
So I'm on Instagram, which is at Harry Atters, if you want to say hello. But I'm doing To Kill a Mockingbird, which we are touring the UK from this week in Salford and in Manchester, and we go through till May, and we go to Newcastle, Belfast, Southampton, Canterbury, Norwich, Liverpool, a lot of the country. So have a look on tokillamockingbird.co.uk, I think.
Fantastic. Sorry, there's stuff happened there. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here, and I will see everyone here next time. I hope to have you, if I ever see you in the future, it'd be lovely to meet you in person. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time for a new episode of Audio Alchemy with Chris Smith. And take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.